We should be live in just a minute. There we go. All right. All right, got that sorted. It's all open. And we are live, Jawa.
Amazing, awesome.
Season 6 kicking off here. Let me share my POV for you per usual. What did we say? 30 frames was good, and you were okay with me dialing it back a little bit?
Yeah, as
480?
long as I have about 720 as I can read names still.
Uh,
Anything lower than that, I start to lose the
well, if it
ability
makes
to
you feel
read.
better, I don't have the names on. So that should even us out a bit. I
Alrighty.
know we're taking it from
Also,
the beginning, but we're going to figure out these names in real time. I guess the best way to go, you know?
yeah, we'll be fine. We'll make it
Yeah.
work.
Just turning the map so we can see exactly what we're looking at as far as the wind goes. 7 kilometers an hour to start us off at this 30-minute practice. And it looks like we're getting a pretty good filling in here. We got 10 guys in so far over on this end of things, 6 guys jumping into the pro race so far. We'll see as people start to get uh, into their respective races how things go. Now, any expectations for today's event?
Nothing so far. The first race of the season is always really interesting. We get to see where these guys have improved since last season. Yeah, but this track is really unique. It's one of the first things that I thought of was the fact that it's all right-handers. We have one left-hander, but it's not really quite a left-hander.
It is one of the
Um,
more interesting ones that we've done. It's
it
like the,
definitely
the
is.
reverse NASCAR race.
Almost, yeah, no, exactly. I was thinking about the tire wear is going to be a big one for these guys. It is a longer race today, if I'm accurate on that statement.
Yeah,
And
45-minute, and we saw 2 stops for everybody in the earlier event today, so that's going to be an interesting one. I know some of our usual viewers are probably going to be looking around for the drone camera. We will have that live in a little bit, just not ready at the moment. But we'll be still business as usual, I promise you. Nothing too crazy this season. We are going to have an AI broadcast going live in a little bit for the pro race, so we'll be able to keep tabs on those guys. I know that's always a big area of concern, and we'll just kind of go from there. Fuzzy, we are back indeed. Very excited to see what this brings. Another season. So let's take a look at some of the newcomers here. We are in the rookie event, so we're going to have the most newcomers to watch here on our end of things. The AI stream is going to cover some of our more senior drivers, and a few of these guys will be heading over to join them for week 2, depending on how today's event goes. I'm going to bounce us back to our usual point of view. And let's take it from the top. So we've got our old faithful here, Rev174. Rev, one of the guys we are expecting to see bounce up to the next level, currently rocking the Scrub Daddy Motorsport livery. I do see the broadcaster car is actually not in that early pit box as we were hoping, so someone's going to have a slight pit box disadvantage in today's race. We then go over to Max Yang in the number 55 Locket Racer, looking pretty good on today's track. We've got Moss 99, who did make their own livery for today's event, the number 72, keeping things nice and smooth. Little Canadian livery on the license plate. This one I might have thrown in for him a little for the Queen up top. We'll see how he makes out today. Now, here's the name some of you are going to recognize, but not everybody. This is Sam, one of our very original racers. I believe this one has been with us since season 1, and this is one of the first liveries that was ever brought into the server. Sam not only responsible for this livery and some early on racing, but the actual real rookie logo itself. So big name to see returning to the grid. We do have Thanks Obama rocking one of the original Rookie Series liveries, originally done for KMS Rocks. Llama in the Mazda number 31. Zed Wolf rocking a familiar livery there with the Ostrich Racer. Thorn Maddox in the familiar Noob Power. A new face on the grid here, not necessarily in the racer as Brian number 7 back behind the wheel for another season, but we do have Sonic joining us on the grid in the number 2 car. The DLRT team is sending 2 more racers our way. The first one to join us tonight being King Flash, who you've seen in a few open events, but not yet in the season, I don't believe. So we'll get a good glimpse at their capabilities today. DNC also joining us in the number 47 Logitech Racer, as well as Victor Kersey. I think this is also going to be one that we haven't seen on the grid just yet. This might actually be Seb's season 3 or 4 livery, now that I'm saying it out loud. And we've got Ricky Richmond and T. Sydney joining us. So a lot of names, a lot of faces.
Oh, most definitely. It's good to see everybody back here. This is season 6, like you've been reiterating. We're looking to see a full grid tonight. What do you think?
That would certainly be nice to see. Doable, I would say. It all comes down to how these guys are able to work together. I do seem to have lost the ability to even turn on the auto cam, so it's going to be all drone from here on out, barring a few changes.
And we'll definitely make it work. It's week 1 hiccups, you know. It's normal.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't be week 1 without the hiccups. Sorry, just responding to a few questions here and there in the main Discord channel. For those of you who aren't familiar, always recommend checking it out where you can. That's what I was looking for. Alright, got everything back up and running there. Do you see Rick Nicholson in the number 36 joining the grid? Let's talk about some of the times going up now. So over in the pro event, again, we haven't gotten the chance to show you guys just those capabilities, but we do see some 107s across the board here. The early laps, seeing a couple 109s and 108s, but I think 107 is going to be the target time over on their stretch of the woods. Rev 174 just off the cusp of that, really leading the pack as the rest of the grid clings on to the 108s and mostly 109s. See Max Yang and DNC trying to shave off an extra half second somewhere along the way to catch up to Rev. It's going to be a very tight race. Oops, sorry.
So those 107s are going to be a target goal. I'm seeing the mid 107s here over on the pro side of things. A couple as well, a couple 108s, but these guys are pretty dang close there to the guys over there in the pro and amateur race.
Yeah, and that's why we're calling this one the short season. Every track is looking to be around a 1 minute lap time, if not less. We do have Martinsville later on the grid, which I think features maybe a 30-second lap time. So these guys are going to be putting a lot of full laps on the cars this time around. We're hoping to see maybe some more exciting action as a result, as lap traffic's going to come into play and these guys won't have as much space to make up time or gain time ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, with these lap times being so short, with the pit stop, we're going to see a ton of strategy come into play, right? You don't have that extra minute there to kind of as a buffer. And if you have somebody lapped, you only have 1 minute to get through the pits and be as efficient as possible. So that's definitely going to come into or sorry, be a huge part of today's race. Like you were saying, we're seeing the two-stop strategy. I wasn't able to catch the EU race like I was hoping to, but did we see any tire swaps?
No tire swaps. Typically with these MX5s, unless there's a little bit of forced hand of God, you don't end up seeing it. So I think we'll be okay today as tire wear is at your standard 100%. Fuel rate is at 250, so it's going to be two stops. Everybody's going to have to try and come up with a strategy to account for that. We saw about 40 laps in the earlier race today, so these guys having to take that into account as well. But we did see the big killer, the grass. Gonna be one of the most unforgiving things about this track is you'll see there's barely any walls to crash into. So as soon as you get a little bit onto the slippery side, it is game over.
No, most definitely, it is straight ice out there, and it's going to be super hard for these drivers because it is like we've been saying a longer race, and the longer you race for, the more you lose focus. And this track just has zero error or zero room for that error when it comes to your focus and how locked in you have to be for that full 45 minutes.
And Castle Combe is typically a track filled with a lot of character, but we have removed the character for today's events, also known as the chicane. So it's going to be a run of the mill, not a lot of room for mistake here. That's why we're seeing sometimes as close together as we are, these guys getting a little bit more comfortable on the grid, are starting to squeak closer and closer together. As over in the pro end of things, we are seeing these times get quicker and quicker. I'm seeing a 107.3 from Articulate Fox right now.
No, D, but it does just show how well these rookies and these newer guys have put in the work. I mean, being only 7/10 off of the fastest guy in the pro class does mean something. You're still well within the leaders, and you're just trying to fight towards that next class. You know.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do see in the chat here we've got Brian number 7 in that Sonic Racer, as well as Sam GT. If either of you guys are interested in doing an interview, just pop the little wave hand thing and we'll pull you right on in. Now that we've got the stages set up, we can go back to doing pre-race interviews, which is always nice. And Jawa, I don't know if you want to just pop over real quick and check in with the guys on the grid to see if any of them are interested in joining this as well. Obviously, we can always get some interviews from those pro class drivers as it's going to be an AI coverage for them. So I'm sure it'll be nice to get their opinions on stream as well.
Well, I will definitely go see.
So we'll send him on a touch of a goose chase. While we do that, let's see what we got. Going to get the stream loaded. Looks like the pro class event has begun. Give me just a moment to make a quick announcement here as Java tries and grabs a few more racers for today's event.
All right. We do have one interview here.
Excellent.
Let me move him to here.
Perfect. Trying to get everything set up over here. And
I
it
have to
looks
go ahead
like
and wait a little. Sorry.
no, we are all set on our end as far as the double broadcast goes. All right, who do we got
Awesome.
here? Ash.
That is who it is.
All right, we'll pull him in. I do see the AI broadcast up. Ash Garito, how goes it?
Hey guys.
The man with arguably one of the biggest targets on his back heading into the season. Now, you may not have won the last season, but you did have one of the breakout performances. How are you feeling as far as the pressure goes heading into week 1?
Chilling, man. I can only say I'm gonna win with these.
only say you're going to win with ease. Now, we do see Articulate Fox over on your end of things putting up a 107.3 in these early stages of practice. Only 10 minutes left before the qualifying begins. Is that a pace that you feel you're confident in your ability to keep up with, or is that something that makes
I'm
you a little
not too.
nervous?
I'm not too sure yet, to be honest. I haven't completed a lap, but looking at things, I'm going for a 106, 106.9.
106.9. Now, is that something the Parmesan himself has pulled off yet?
Don't know, to be honest.
All right, so it could be a first. Now, long season, a lot of events coming your way. Is there any in particular you're looking forward to? I know you're probably looking forward to Martinsville. I know you're a big oval guy, but other than that, what would you say are your highlights for this upcoming season?
Well, like you said, Martinville's is definitely the favorite for me. Um, Probably week 3.
And
Probably the
remind our viewers,
furthest.
where are we off to there?
I'll let you do the honest. You can let them know.
If I remember off the top of my head, I think that's going to be the Okayama short track. I could be
Perfect.
wrong
I
there.
love Okayama.
Yeah.
Love it. That's my favorite.
So that'll be one of the good ones there to watch this season. Well, that's exciting stuff there. I know you guys don't have too many on your grid with you today, but after today's events, when the grid starts to get split, things are going to get a little bit more chaotic. You can see we've got 17 racers in the rookie class, so some of them will be coming your way. Are there any names from the rookie events that you think you might see later on? I know Rev and Dean have joined you guys before.
Is Rev not already in this split?
Rev has not started out in the split. Rev was one of the ones to request the amateur class off the bat, so not
No
everybody
way.
got moved up. But Rev is, especially the way he's on pace today, looking like he'll be with you guys shortly.
Yeah, he needs to be.
Yeah. Well, I take it that's the one. Well, any messages to your competitors before the season kicks off? You got about 8 minutes here until qualifying begins.
Let me think.
Or to,
Articulate Fox, definitely this season. I think I'm gonna take him down for sure. I remember Macau was that an open event? I don't know. What was that season?
Macau was one of the seasons, as last year was a season of, or last season was a season of street tracks, so definitely would have counted.
He just about got me at the end. I think this season I'm gonna take him down.
Yeah, if I remember, it came down to
Macau,
you missing one at more race than the drops allowed. Might have been the only difference between you, so
yeah,
you'll have to make up for it.
I'm gonna get him this season now.
Excellent. Well, we wish you luck, buddy.
Thank you, man.
We'll send you back out towards the track.
See you later.
See ya. I was wondering how to move an audience, but there we go. Figure that out. A lot of confidence over there, huh?
Oh, for sure. No, Alex is one of our more confident drivers. He knows where he wants to be and very competitive. So a good balance of both. I can see that. I'm excited to see how he does today in these Miatas.
Mm-hmm.
I do see the pro grid is starting to fill up a little bit. We have 11 guys over there now, so it is getting more packed.
Yeah,
It's always great to see.
I do see that a lot of guys on the grid here. I'm looking at the live chat. We do see actually there's going to be a few guys in both events kind of overlapping. So we actually have the rookie race chat that does have a few members from just the rookie chat, and then the amateur race has guys from both events in it. So hopefully that ends up getting separated before things kick off, as that might cause a little bit of confusion on the track. Looking now at the 99, or rather the number 72 car of Mossman. I gotta say, I like the subtleness of this livery. It's a rebadged Kunos one, but done very well. You can see it was made very cleanly. A lot of the lines really drawn together. A nice subtle color scheme, so one that we're excited to see participate today.
I definitely agree with you there. I love those more subtle, simple liveries. You know, they get the point across without being too flashy and in your face.
Yeah, and we do have our traditional broadcaster's car here. Always
Beautiful
worth
car there.
seeing. Trying to remember what button I had it set up to. I think it's actually going to be a button on my wheel, unfortunately, that it's set up to, so we won't have our safety lights today. We do see that Logitech Racer again, another nice subtle livery here, not too much going on, just straight to the point. And same with even that DLRT race team, they do a good job of just representing themselves on the grid. And we go to a little bit of fun with the Mazda. I gotta say, I am excited to see this one in the middle of the pack, kind of battling things out.
Oh, me as well. I do love the fact that we have a ton of liveries this season alone. You know, in the previous seasons, we've seen a good mix-up of kudos liveries and ones that were made for previous seasons. This season, we've definitely seen quite a few new ones. That's going to be exciting to see, especially with the creativity that people can kind of come up with and show.
Yeah, exactly. I will say that's one thing I'm thankful for, getting Speed Bump able to do our AI broadcast of the Pro event, is you can see it in the bottom right corners of your screens. It is not the biggest picture, but at least you'll get a little glimpse at some of the action and happenings over there. So we'll be able to keep a little eye on what's going on. 9 guys on their grid, right? Or sorry, 10 guys slowly entering the grid over on their end of things. So starting to open up over there. It does put us at 27 racers altogether. As of now, they could have all fit on one grid. Looks like we've got number 18 joining our event, but we are still at a point where we could have fit everybody on one race. So hopefully some of those signups who filled up a lot of those extra slots do show up for today's event, or at least plan to partake in the rest of the season. It's a neat little pit entry there. That's going to be a tough one for these guys right up front. Gonna have to take it slow. Looks like these pit boxes are all over the place, huh? Jesus.
For sure. It's almost like a Walmart parking lot. Just park wherever you want.
Oh my God. Well, we see the times ticking down and down and down, as now only about 3 seconds separate the entirety of the grid. Big Dean Energy still looking for a clean lap, but definitely going to be able to find one soon. We'll actually jump over to them and see how they're faring currently, as they are in a clean outlet. We'll see what comes of it. Wow, this is actually going to be a new livery for Big Dean Energy now that I'm really getting a good look at it. It's gone for a little bit more of a spooky vibe this time around. Sends a message with those piercing eyes, as well as the stitched in smile on the lower part of the front bumper. It's certainly a nice looking one. Those eyes are going to be intimidating if you're stuck behind, huh?
Oh, most definitely. It'll lock you in, you know. You get the tunnel vision when you're racing real fast, but that'll give you the biggest tunnel vision right there.
Yeah, I mean, that'll break you right out of it. We'll give you the view. If you're stuck behind them, this is what you're looking at. Heading in and out of these turns, it's going to be hard to break contact and look at your braking point away, but that'll be the job for our guys on the grid. Let Dino head out for a little bit as we're heading into what's going to be the final 2, maybe 3 laps if they're lucky, of the qualifying session. Looking over once more at the pro end of things, we do see Brett Anderson joining the mix, so up to 11 on their side of things. And a few more continuing to join in on the fun for the rookies. So slowly filling out there, huh?
But definitely, I mean, they're trickling in, but I mean, I'm glad to see that we have more than 10 guys on the grid now. I hope we can get a full grid there, or there's many that are signed up on the
Yeah. Now, speaking of changes to the grid, sorry, I just noticed that DNC was able to get to a 108.08, so just shy of Rev's 108.03. DNC was able to crack into the 107s during the private practices, so we'll have to see what comes of that here in the back end.
No, most definitely. Him and Rev are going to be super close there. Sorry, I said they and Rev will be very close this race. with those super close times. We'll see how Rev can handle that. I don't know if I've seen DNC there. Hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah, I've been
Before
calling him Dancy. I feel like Dancy fits.
Dancy, that does something. That does fit. I like that.
Yeah, so Dancy, the number 47 car. We did see Dancy, I want to say, in some of the GT3 events during the off season. I'm not positive whether or not we saw him in the MX5 events, as I was kind of focused on trying not to die during the off season myself. So
No, I definitely understand that. I took a little break myself, so I came back from that last off-season race and definitely got kicked around a little bit.
Yeah. These guys have definitely picked up a trick or two while we're sitting back here in the booth, and it shows when you try and jump in with them and during those off seasons. So always nice to get a sense of what these guys are going through. Now we didn't do any longer races that required a pit stop during the off season, so that's one thing I'm not going to be able to identify with today. But we have done them before. I'm gonna be honest with you. I would be looking over the stats of the EU race to see how long people made it on their pit stops, and I would maybe take the short fuel stint first, just to switch it up.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to go for that short stint last. I think me
I just,
personally, if I'm going to have a short stint, I might as well just take the best part of my tires first, and be as light as possible, gain a little bit of lead if I can. That's just my personal thoughts on it, but we'll see what these guys do. You know, there's tons of different strategies. We've talked about this before in our previous seasons. You can
yeah,
do whatever you really want
I'm just
and be
thinking as
competitive.
far as looking at our previous seasons, and a lot of these guys have raced in our previous seasons. You know that everybody's going to try and bring the car out with full fuel all the way to the last possible lap before taking their first stop. So if you're already out on the grid and moving, you can probably use that to the advantage when you get an empty track for an entire lap there. So something to
Yeah,
consider. Now, again, it does mean that you're going to have 2 long fuel stops as opposed to 1 long and 1 short fuel stop. So pros and cons to everything.
for sure. And I even did see in the E race earlier, I spoke to a couple of guys just for a brief second that they tried to go for the single stop. And there was a ton of fuel saving, but they ended up placing rear on mid pack, if I remember correctly. So that may also be a strategy. I don't want to lead you astray, so don't
Were
quote me
they
on
able
that.
to finish the 1 stop?
From what I heard, there's a ton of fuel saving, and they may have had to stop like 2 laps left, but they did do it it was technically a 2 stop. Sorry,
Yeah,
but
well,
they
I mean,
did
that is
go
still
for
it's a much shorter pit stop though at that point.
it is.
I guess we'll have to see. We are in overtime here. It looks like a lot of these guys are now sitting, waiting for the timer to fully elapse. You see qualifying has begun over on the pro end of things, so those guys are already out on track, already looking for ways around wherever they can. See a big rush to get out of the pits here as we kick things off. We'll jump over to Big Dean Energy, and he will be our first driver that will follow for today's outlap. So he was in that little 3-man hunt to dive out, but he makes it out on top. He'll be our first one to get around. You see everybody kind of trying to set up some space there on the map. Things are looking pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, this track is just big enough to fit everybody in with a nice little gap in between everybody. But it's definitely going to be tricky, though, with this qualifying. People go back to the pits and adjust their setups for the final time before the actual race. Getting that lap traffic, it can be very frustrating during the qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, looking at just the spread you already have on that grid, I don't think it's wrong to say you're only going to get 2 or 3 attempts early on here, and you're going to have to make the most of it. That is going to cost Dean significantly, as it looks like Dancy will be the one to get the cleanest launch out into a first lap. So we'll hang out with Dancy as they're going to set the top time, or the time to beat, right off the rip here, with a strong pull through the first turn. I don't even know if you can call some of these turns, but that one at least does require a drop down in gear. It's a gentle one we've chosen for them today, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a good track to ease into the season with. Nothing too complex, but also has its quirks. Only being right turns definitely changes the way you configure the car. You're really burning up those left tires there, the left side of the car. That definitely will change how they drive as well as how they configure their setups for this race. So not a super simple track, but also not the hardest.
Yeah, I was taking a look at some of the setups floating around, and it does seem like people are starting to account for that a little bit in their pressures and in their setups. So you do see kind of a reverse of some of the features you see in our typical oval races, which is very interesting to see. Dancy with a 1078 to start us off. Not only is that going to be the time to beat, I think that's going to be a hard time to beat, as we haven't seen anybody hit that number just yet. Brian, number 7, with a 108.02, shows that anybody's going to be pulling some high numbers here in qualifying session. You see a little run-in with the wall there for Elvis as he gets back on track, trying not to lose too many spots here. I know it's only qual, but you want to stay with the pack so that you can pick up that tailwind, or sorry, the drafting opportunity, and maybe shave off a 10th or two here and there. Gonna jump now to the number 17 car, Rev 174 in the Scrub Daddy Motorsport. Looks to be on a little bit of an off lap. I think he was probably dealing with a little bit of traffic, so he'll be looking to set a clean time his next one around. Trying to take a look at the live deltas, we actually see Ricky Richmond seems to be on an incredible heater as he comes around the final bend, shaving almost a second off his time, or over a second off his time, putting him into the 108.3. Brian, number 7, joining Dancy in the sub 108 squad with a 107.9. He's actually going to be just behind Ricky Richmond here. That's a lot of pressure. I think we've got Mossy Man 99 right in front. So this is going to be Brian's moment to catch a little bit of a draft. You can see it helping his delta in the bottom left of your screen there, already gaining a couple hundredths at a time. This is a type of track where hundredths do matter. This is going to be the tricky part, though. Has to decide if he can get around, and realizes it might be better to pull back for a moment and give himself some open air for the next opportunity. Coming down hot behind him, though, is going to be Elvis. Seems to be struggling a little bit with some ping issues, but hopefully it will bounce right back into the game. Let's jump now to one of our newer racers here, Lewis, joining us in qualifying. Lewis rocking the Eris Racer. I think we haven't seen this one since season 2, so a couple of older liveries being represented today. That's always nice.
For sure. That may or may not be the one I was telling you about earlier. The one that we just got him in yesterday, or actually today, brand new to Triple R here.
Very nice, very nice. And sim racing as a whole?
Not quite. He's been doing he's done a lot of traffic stuff, some drifting stuff. This is really his first time hopping with us and getting some real organized racing in. A couple races with the LFM, but he wanted to learn the ropes, and I told him this is a great place to do it. So he's hopping in. Glad to see him here, and it seems like he's doing just fine.
Very nice. Well, definitely easing in, starting to chip off a couple tenths at a time to catch up to the back half of the grid there, but it's not a big spread. Everybody's got a little bit of competition. Those last 3 guys definitely have a little bit of time to shave. Rev 174, I know, will. Same with Articulate Fox. So if Lewis can creep himself into the low 110s, definitely will find himself racing alongside company. Guess a little bit of a flyby there from Rick Nicholson in the 36 car. Both guys trying to push hard for a lap. This is where the long qualifying comes into play. They get 30 minutes, so not every lap counts, and not every lap is going to matter. just got to make the most of a few.
Most definitely. And the one thing that would be huge here is the drafting. You're going to have a ton of slipstream here, these huge long straights. So kind of, I'm not going to say partnering up, but buddying up with somebody isn't a bad idea. If you can find somebody who's just a little bit faster or just at your pace, you can definitely cut off a few tenths there in your lap times.
And it looks like Rev 174 was looking for that drafting opportunity as loses 3/10 on that front straightaway. Better turn into the second straight though is at least helping him gain some of that back. Again, Rev being one of the ones we saw in the low 108s, bordering on the cusp of those 107s in practice. So we're expecting a big lap out of him in the next 22 minutes or so. While Rev continues to go around, we're going to check in over on the pro side of things. We've got Seb Bellew leading the pack with a 107.9, followed by IMJ. Oh, I spoke too soon. Articulate Fox bounces to the top of the board with a 107.5 to answer Seb's 107.9. Then followed by IMJ, who is only 4 thousandths away from breaking under the 108 time there. Wibba with a 108.07. Lando a 108.2, Patchy with a 108.24, Brett Anderson a 108.47, Josh Fulton a 108.49, the Inferno 108.49, a 108.9, and then Zach Dickinson a 109, and Nick Cruz and El Garito trying to find a lap. So very tight times over in the pro race end of things as well. Judging by the times that we've got going on here and over there, I think we're going to be able to merge these grids a little bit more in the later weeks. You see, Brian has joined the grid there into P19, or rather rejoined. So we'll see where they end up. I think Brian might be one, racing in Hunter's livery. So another one of our original racers. Brian representing their number 13 car with the shopping cart sponsors, as we like to call them. Eggs, milk, bananas, bread, ham, pepper, and bacon. It's a good list.
It is a great list.
Hanging out with him here just to see what kind of a lap we put up. Lewis creeping in with a 111.8, noticing that one there. Rooting for him to catch up to these back of the grid if he can. The Rev 174 has jumped up with a 108.9. Trying to look at some of these deltas, see who's on a big lap here. Actually, Ricky Richmond a couple tenths up. And loses it heading into one of the final bends. He was on a heater for a moment there. He was 3 tenths up, was looking at the pace of that 107 he needed. Still plenty of time to make it back up, but needs to get moving if he can. Gonna be starting a fresh one. Trying to keep an eye again once more. I do see Thorn Mannix in the new racer looking to set a name for themselves. Already with a 108, started out with a pretty strong beginning to the lap. We'll see where they can gain the time here on the back straight. Did not look to keep that drafting opportunity for too long. You're going to keep moving here. As Thorn will let off, realizes there's a ton of space behind him. Is going to try and take advantage of the open air, so to speak. And make that work. Oh, Thorn with a little bit of a wiggle on to the grass. Can be recovered. Needs to just pull a little bit more towards the road, and does so. A little bit concerning there, but pulls it off as we were hoping. Taking a look over to T. Sydney, also up on their time, heading into... We're going to need to name these turns here. All right,
tough. They look very similar.
We're going to join Sid here and come up with some names on this next lap, and hopefully that will inspire them to be a hot lap. Now, obviously, final turn is an easy one. along with the start-finish straight. We'll call this one the pit right. And then we'll call it the only left into turn 1.
That only left name is fitting, as it is the only left-hand sort of corner on the entire track. And a slight bit of broadcaster's curse there.
So as we jump onto Rev through straight 1, past the lazy right, into the hook right. I feel like this is working.
It is. I feel it is too. You only have about 4 corners the entire track, so it's not
down
not
the
too
chicane
difficult.
2 straightaway. We'll just call all of this the chicane 2 straightaway, the whole thing. And back into the final corner. And I think we've got a lap.
It is. It's probably been the easiest naming of corners we've had over the past few seasons.
That's going to be the theme this season. I'm telling you, from a broadcaster's perspective, it's going to be easier for us to keep an eye on some of the action too. This one actually is going to be one of the bigger tracks that we do of the season as far as physical distance apart, or like distance in the middle. A lot of them have more of a horseshoe shape, so we'll be able to catch action on both sides of the track while we're moving along. Rev putting up a 108.2 on that last lap, creeping closer and closer to the 107 squad that we do think that they're capable of. Gonna try and jump around to some names that we don't know, see what they're capable of. We've got Victor Kersey on a little bit of a struggle lap right now, but with some space in front of him. So we'll stick with them here, heading into the final 16 minutes of qual. A lot of time, actually, now that I say it out loud. And they've still got a 45-minute race after this.
Do tons of driving today. Super excited. 30-minute quality is kind of a half practice, half quality. You still get tons of practice in, but you're pushing that car to the absolute limit, and it is a little bit more stressful than the practice session because it does dictate where you set the grid. But it is nice to have that extra 15 minutes, especially if you need to do some fine tuning on your tune there.
Yeah, and it's especially nice when it comes to these short tracks, just because of, like you were saying, that traffic, man. Having to get around it is a little bit tougher when there's only a minute's worth of track to get around. Ooh, we see Mossman going for a less traditional re-entry, but still being respectful of those looking for their qualifying laps. Gonna be getting back on the grid with a little bit less pace than the oncoming car. Ooh. If I want to say Ricky Richmond heading past in the number 87 car. I'm keeping an eye on deltas around here. Nobody seems to be putting any crazy out of the ordinary laps in here. Now, these top laps aren't the only thing that matter. Don't forget, these guys are doing low fuel, using draft to their advantage, and only their best clean lap is counting. One thing to consider is during the race, these guys will have some incidents, and they'll have to avoid them, more importantly. So their consistency is going to be what counts. Their average lap time throughout the whole 45 minutes is going to be much more important than their one-off best lap attempt. It is going to be a long season, so those fastest lap points can help you in the very long run, but it's something you only really want to focus on once you know you've got your position secured. Just bouncing around here, livery to livery. And we're taking a look at the extremely cautious pit entry there. Of Victor Kersey. You were right, Jawa. We got a lot of guys going in and out of the pits here, just dialing in, trying to finesse whatever they can.
For sure, with these more simplified tracks, these shorter tracks, you have a lot of room for improvement on the tune. You only have right-handers here, so you can really kind of abuse that with your setup, right? You have your camber values to work on, your anti-roll bar, they're huge for these like I'm going to say circle style courses. It is
Hmm.
almost a really messed up circle. Um, so there's a lot of room to improve as well. The suspension, just height in general. You can get a little bit more hooks in these corners with certain heights on certain sides of the car. So a ton of changes can be done to this car and make it just hundredths of a second faster in your lap time, which does count when it comes to these qualifying sessions. As we see, these guys are only 600ths of a second off each other. I mean, we're seeing gaps as small as literally 3,000ths of a second.
And sorry, I'm just answering a few questions around the broadcast area here. Does look like there might be one more racer joining if they're signed up. I can't tell if they said they were signed up or said they were signing up. Looks like we do have a late entry from Base Cannon, so Base Cannon will at least be a part of some of the remaining events of the season in that pro class. Uh, but unfortunately will not be a part of today's events, sadly. Things are starting to level out a little bit here. I think everybody's, I don't know if they're hitting their peak. That's not the right way to say it. I think everybody's just getting a little fatigued on the course here.
Yeah, after you've been driving for 25 minutes, you definitely get a little bit more fatigued. You're not quite as down as you were at the beginning of the session. So we'll definitely see a little bit of that. This may be a good time for some of the guys who've spent a little more time in the pits, just getting their setup styled in, kind of shine a little bit as well. They've had less time with their hands on the wheels, having to focus up. We may see them put out some good lap times here towards the end of the session, as well as guys that have kind of been trying to just a little bit do last minute practice in with their heavy fuel setups.
Yeah, and I mean, we're definitely seeing small improvements across the board here and there, but it wouldn't be a bad idea for a few of these guys who have taken about 5 or 6 laps in a row without any improvements to maybe just take a second, grab a sip of water, and stretch the legs for a moment, as it's rare you get a chance to do so during qual. It's a good way to get a quick mental refresh in. You see Llama with a pretty decent pace here. Not looking at improvement just yet, but slowly moving closer and closer to the cars ahead. Draft really goes a long way, given the really lack of turns around this one. And that is the key to this qualifying, is you don't want to be stuck in the pack, but you kind of need them.
Yeah, no, the draft is super important here. With these long straights, it does give you those 3-4 tenths of a second, especially these Miatas where you really don't have that acceleration like you do in some of the faster classes like GT3, GT2, GT4, etc. And we may have one more pre-race interview here from the man Brian.
Ah, very nice.
We will see if he's willing to do an interview here.
He's currently in the pits there.
Alrighty.
Hello, gents.
Hello, how are you doing, Brian?
What's up, Brian?
Oh, not too bad. Figure I'd go ahead and sit down and get interrogated for a little while.
Very nice, very nice. One hell of a time to be putting up there in the Sonic Racer. Would you say the livery's helping you get that little extra burst of speed?
Oh, all the time. You know what they say. Gotta go fast, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I know you've done seasons with us before, but is there anything in particular about this season that you're looking forward to, worried about, anything like that?
Well, I'll make a correction. I've done the off-season races. I haven't
Uh,
done any official season races yet, so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what you guys have to offer.
oh, welcome, welcome.
I'm a newbie.
All right, well, I stand corrected. I guess I've seen you on the grid a few times, so got comfortable with you, but very nice. Well, I'm excited to see. This is certainly a strong debut. Actually, two out of the top three times are coming from guys who haven't been in seasons before, so you guys are a strong novice showing.
Yeah, I just noticed that D4 got a lap time better than me, so I'll probably go ahead and head off in about 2 minutes or so and see what I can do if I can get another quick lap time in.
Yeah, Dancy's been toying with that time there for a little bit, so they did finally, just on that last lap, as the broadcaster's curse started out, uh, crossed over that threshold there. I will say, keep in mind, even if you guys do start to break away from each other, the way it works when you get moved over is your overall lap time gets compared to that of the class you get moved to in the other race. So even if there's no one in front of you, you might still be racing someone in the other event. So make sure you're always pushing there tonight. As with the qualifying and practice session we've seen from you, I have a feeling you'll be in the pro event starting next week. Or, well, not next week, but next event.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that sounds good to me. I mean, if I can race against some people with similar skill and stuff, I mean, I thought that I'd be pretty fitted in this event, but I was surprised that I got P2 at the moment. So we'll see. This is a very interesting track to learn on. Very wide. You got to really conserve your momentum through the corners, get that long run onto the straight, and I'm not really much of a setup master, but I just kind of grab something and go with it.
Yeah, no, you definitely been running away with it. Now, have you been toying around with bump drafting at all in your time on our server yet, or not quite yet?
I try to take advantage of some of the slower cars here, but I just caught up to them too quickly, and I had to back off.
It might be food for thought if you and Dancy are starting to break away from the rest of the grid, and you've got the full 45 minutes left. It might be worth working together to put some extra distance between you, but obviously I'll leave that to you guys to decide whether
Yes,
it's a battle or a war.
yeah, it's good food for thought. I'll keep that in mind. We'll see what Dan C has in store, and I don't know, maybe we can kind of be like good teammates for this race. But yeah, looks like my time is just about up. I better go ahead and hit the track and see what I can do to improve my time.
Yeah, 5 minutes remaining. We're rooting for you there. Good luck, Brian.
All right, thanks, guys.
That is going to be an interesting one. Brian and Dance are putting up quite a strong front at the top of the pack there. And that's no small gap. I mean, we're looking at 4/10 there.
No, most definitely. It's going to be a super tight race. They're now 8/10 or 8/100 separated now. From what I'm seeing on my end, maybe I'm seeing the wrong thing. It's kind of hard to read the numbers on your stream there, going off the live timing sheet. A super close race there. They're both newer. It's a newer 2-hour server. This will be awesome. This is kind of their debut for the season events. See if they can pull off and or they position themselves here at the end of the race. And a lot of these guys have done races before, but not these longer ones where you have to do these pit stops. So that's going to be a huge part, like we've been speaking about.
Absolutely. Now, I'm just checking in over on the pro end of things. We do have Articulate Fox, as expected, up top with a 107.2. Looks like El Garito starting to do some qualifying laps now, has already put up a 107.7 and is continuing to improve. IMJ and Seb Bellew, though, are currently wedged between them with a 107.5 and a 107.6. Nick Cruz with a 107.8. Wibbo with a 107.8. Patchy just shy of the 107s into a 108.08. Followed by Brett Anderson with a 108.1. Botlando a 108.2. Fulton a 108.2. Zach Dickinson a 108.5. And the Inferno a 108.5. So looks like everybody has a buddy over there. We do see some constant improvement on the deltas, so I'm sure that will not be the final times, probably not even the final order, as things keep improving. Speaking of improvement, we see Go Brian is now chipped all the way down to a 112, so he's getting within striking distance of Lewis. Lewis has been in the pits for quite some time, though. Might just be mentally preparing for the race ahead. Looking like a good event here. So if we take out those top 2 times, we go from a 108.2 all the way down to a 109.9. So that is just about 1.7 seconds separating the vast majority of the grid, leaving out only the top and bottom 2 racers. So I think we're going to get a good pack going here, but a tight pack does mean a little bit more room for chaos, especially when it's long straightaways with only a few corners. Everybody's going to be looking to make a move on the same corner.
Oh, for sure. And we're going to have a really tight grid when it comes to the first couple laps here. And when we have a grid that's split up by, what is it now, 5 seconds approximately, we're going to have guys that have different braking points and are faster in subsections than others. They definitely have to be careful to preserve themselves towards the middle of the races. We know these 45-minute races are not about getting the best start in the world. You have to stay intact and alive for that first part.
Absolutely.
It's definitely going to be interesting.
Speaking of interesting, Brian number 7 reaching what will only be the last 2 laps attempts for them. This is going to be tight. They will definitely make it across with enough time to get 2 more shots in, but they are going to have to push, and they have a single car in front. Can't see who just at the moment. Off in the distance, it looks like it's either going to be Ricky Richmond or Max Yang. Ricky Richmond by the looks of things. Ricky's at least got the pace to stay away, only 4/10 separating their best laps. Can Brian find the 10th here? I know we've got a lot of guys looking for improvement all the way around the grid. You see Zed Wolf looking for some, as well as Max Yang and Ricky. We're going to stick with Brian for just a moment as they are in the green. Big turn here coming up through the right hook. Gaining tenths at a time for a moment, and at least carries the pace through. Where it currently stands, it's not going to be enough. Brian needs to find a little bit more time into the final corner of the event. Can they make something happen? They might as well stay on the gas because they're going to need to keep pushing. Oh, I think they're going to do it. Oh, a
Just barely.
single thousandths of a second goes to Brian. Dance already in the pits, not going to have a chance to retaliate, I believe. Let me take a look. No, so that's going to go to Brian unless one of these other racers can find find some big change in their pocket along the way. Wow, talk about a finish.
Incredible. Down to the absolute last second there, and he came through with it.
He did. That was a great lap by Brian number 7. Put it together when it absolutely counted. We are on now with Go Brian, looking to set a clean lap coming around the final corner. Going to shave off a little bit more time. Is it enough to catch up to Lewis? Not quite, but getting closer and closer to that striking range. So those two will have something to talk about come race time. I think at this point, though, the majority of our grid has crossed on their positive laps. I believe Victor already crossed on their last one. Max Yang should be one of the last few racers to get a clean one. We do see Sam in front. hoping to make something of their lap. So Max Yang, a second down, not going to be able to find the time, and I believe that goes for Sam as well. So that's going to be it for us here in the qualifying session. You can take a look over at the pits as you see everybody slowly start to join back in. Same goes over in the pro event. So in the pro event, we've got from top to bottom of the grid only 1.3 seconds separating them. And over here in the rookie event, we have only 2.2 seconds separating the vast majority. Lewis and O'Brien were on some solid improvement laps, so I don't think we saw their maximum potential here in the qualifying session. I think they're going to have faster laps during the race. That'll be a better comparison. So we're going to hold off on including their times just yet because I'm fairly confident that they're going to be putting up some faster ones in just a few minutes. What do you think here, Jawa? Did I lose you? I might have lost Jawa. All right, so he seems to have slipped away. I still stand by what I said with or without confirmation there. But slowly getting ready here. Everybody's going to start to talk about fuel, strategy, begging for everybody to leave space turn one, your usual. We'll see just how that goes. As sometimes the begging and pleading can only get you so far. Pretty far, but not always as far as you need it to. Do you see we've got a few in the chat here today. Hopefully everybody's got a fan or two watching them. I know last season we had a few viewers jump in to support some of the racers, so hopefully that's what we got today. If anyone's got any racers in mind they're here to cheer for specifically, we'll try and show them some extra love. Just to let us know in the chat.
I have returned. Sorry about that. I tried to sneak away for a second at the wrong time.
Oh, no worries. I think the race is going to start in just a minute here. I'll turn everything around, but I'll be back in just a second. I'll let you kind of narrate out the starting lineup.
Alrighty. Starting in P1 today, we have Brian, number 7. In P2, we have Dan C, followed by Ricky Richmond there in P3. Sam S there in P4. We have him followed by Rev174. Max Yang there in P6. We have T Sydney there in P7. Thornton Maddox, one of our regulars, there in P8. Followed by Zed Wolf, Thanks Obama, Elvis, Big E Energy, Moss, Lama, Victor, Rick Nicholson, King Flash, Lewis, and Go Brian, bringing up our P18 and 19. Got a pretty stacked crew today. As you see Lewis in the chat, they're saying he messed up, he had an issue. Hopefully he makes it out all right.
Yeah, I'm not positive. I think he's going to be starting from the pit, so hopefully he's able to get the jump and keep moving shortly. Actually, see 2 racers might have been starting from the pits there, as we see chaos in the backfield already. Llama and Elvis crashing. I think a little bit of a lag spike from Elvis might have put him into the rear of another vehicle. Little bits of contact here through turn 1, but everyone mostly able to keep moving. Brian, number 7, seems to be off the throttle and letting the whole grid go by. I wonder what we saw happen there. So we're going to jump up to Dancy, who did get the cleanest line off the start there. We see a big patch bunching up. That does seem like rules for chaos coming into the right hook. So we're going to try and watch, see if everyone makes it through cleanly. Already a crash there between Elvis and Thanks Obama. As those racers try and continue on, we do see Victor going off wide onto the grass. That's going to cause for a 3-wide situation to maybe turn into a 4, as Big Dean Energy does not want any part of that chaos and will pull off. We do still have a head-to-head, though, between Rick Nicholson and Zed Wolf. Rick is going to pull off a little bit early, let Zed go by, but that's also going to let Dean move forward. I see someone coming out of the pits almost the completely wrong way there. That's going to be Ricky Richmond. I wonder if Ricky might have spun out, and that was a rejoin. Oh, as we see another interesting rejoin. Oh, and Ricky almost gets caught by Sydney, but manages to move through. Jeez, we got a lot of chaos here breaking out in those first couple laps, and Dancy has made it through cleanly. See, Rev had a little bit of a collision with Ricky Richmond, as we can see a my bad going on in the chat. Max Yang, the one to be hunting down Dancy at the moment. Only a second behind them is Brian, number 7, the man we know to challenge Dancy's time in qualifying, followed closely by Sam S. Trying to take a look around the grid, we do see at a poor time as Rick Nicholson gets hit with the broadcaster's curse. Apologies there. Looking for a re-entry opportunity. Going to be tight. They might have the chance here. At least manages to cross the track and is able to get forward, get some pace back into the car. We'll see them rejoin in a minute here. So that's going to be Victor, Obama, and Go Brian trying to catch up. We'll see how that goes. I do see Llama may have had a little bit of a spin. Looks like they did go fully off the track, loses it in an interesting spot in the start straight, but manages to get back voicing forward and keep going. Misfortune after misfortune seems to be the name of the game. Oh, Ricky with a big move there. Wow, a big move from Ricky. Manages to keep it on the track. Lewis, unfortunately, wasn't able to make it through. Has to go heavy on the brakes, giving Sydney the chance to get past. But Lewis not out of that hunt just yet. We're going to peel back for a moment and try and catch on. See if Lewis can make something happen here in the next lap. Crazy to think we're only 5 minutes into this thing.
It's been a very eventful first 5 minutes here. We're seeing a complete grid swap here. We're seeing Lewis now having a little bit of trouble finding himself in the wall, almost spinning, does recover, back on track now. Is out of the way.
He's
Hopefully
gonna
he can find his pace there.
Yeah, that will let Mossy take that position, but we got another head-to-head situation into the final turn. These racers really like to try and settle things out at the last minute, and that'll give Sid the position, and it honestly looks like it might even give Sid the pace to keep moving through. We're going to try and jump forward just a little bit to King Flash leading this group that we're watching. So the head-to-head battles going on in the background as Flash unfortunately gets hit with the broadcaster's curse. That's going to let Rev get by with Thorne close behind. We see Sydney and Richmond coming up close. They're head-to-head. Are they going to try and split the difference? Oh, and Sydney unfortunately tries to sneak next to Ricky. Not enough, well, takes it a little bit wide. There was space, but I think takes it a little wider than they thought they needed to. And that will let Ricky continue on, but cost them a few spots. Again, only 5 minutes in, so they'll have plenty of time to make that back. Did give us an interesting moment here now as Sydney's going to be behind Obama and Rick Nicholson. All three of these guys close together in a tight pack. Doesn't look like anyone's got the passing opportunity just yet, so we'll jump to one of the podium battles. Brian, number 7, still looking for a way past Mac Yang. Might have found it. Oh, and gets a little bit of a lockup here into turn 1. That's going to be dangerous. Not only is he going to lose that passing opportunity to Max Yang, but that's going to give Sam a little glimpse of daylight. Zed Wolf, though, using the distraction to sneak up on Sam's mirror. So Zed's going to be within that drafting opportunity all the way down this straightaway. Can they use it to their advantage into the right hook? It's going to be close, but that doesn't mean it won't be doable. We do see some bump drafting opportunities going on in the pro event. We're going to call that one here in the rookie race as both racers are able to make it through cleanly with no issue. Gonna jump back for just a second to that 3-man group as we see Obama getting closer and closer to Rick Nicholson. Rick going well with the defensive moves here, but giving space in the way it counts. He's gonna have to, look out for the late dive, I was gonna say, from Sid, which he does, but unfortunately Obama gets caught in the braking, and both racers will lose the spot there to Sydney. Gonna take a peek over at Thorne Maddox, who went a little bit off track into the grass. Thorne now on the back foot, getting passed by Lewis and King Fox. Lewis looking at a chance for a top 10 finish here, only a few seconds out, so is gonna have to keep on the pressure. Brian number 7 did get that position on Max Yang. Oh, as Max Yang might have gone off. Max Yang does go off in turn 1. That's going to be a detrimental one as Max Yang goes all the way down to P9. Looks like Moss 97 is going to have the pace to at least get close and start thinking about a passing opportunity. Now with Max's pace, I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't necessarily come. But that drafting range is hard to fight. Looking at the big picture here, Brian number 7 finds himself 10 seconds shy of Dancy in front. There's going to be 2 pit stops, so they'll at least be able to try and alter out the strategy if they can figure something there. But 10 seconds is a big chunk of change to miss out on. Speaking of missing out, Go Brian goes wide. It looks like down the first straightaway, and will find themselves trying to get back onto the grass. They're going to be actually the first bit of lap traffic here. We'll see how that pans out for Dancy. Oh, as what should have been an easy pass leads to a little bit of contact. I think O'Brien was expecting them to take a little bit closer of an inside lane, but it just didn't come. But thankfully, both racers able to keep going. It looks like King Flash might have had a little bit of a spin there as he loses a position to Thorn Maddox. Oh, and I see the trio is back in action here. We've got Rick Nicholson, Obama, and the Llama all together. Oh, I hope these guys stay together because that is one hell of a name. Little nudge of contact there, but the racers keep on moving. As Rick now has been the space to slot into the draft. Looking to get pulled along and turn this into a 3-way dive down into the right hook. And Rick will pull off a little easy to avoid the chaos in front as the Obama starts to search for a position. Oh, and we find ourselves in the middle of a head-to-head as the camera goes wide. Obama looking for a move on the Llama. Can he figure it out all the way down into the final turn? The Llama not backing down, but it will be Obama who comes ahead as the number 7 car takes the lead here at only 10 minutes into the race. I do find it funny, over in the pro event, the only thing in their chat is a message from El Garrido that says, "Are you good at starts, Fox?" Articulate Fox is 3.5 seconds ahead of the pack here 10 minutes into the race. So I'm going to say the answer to that one ended up being yes. What do you think?
I would definitely agree with you. We will see El Garrido is a very confident driver. We'll see if he can claw his way back up. He's currently sitting at P3, but that is a very funny and ironic chat there.
I thought you'd get a kick out of that one. We do see Brian number 7 and Dancy are lapping nearly identical. Brian able to make up almost a second from that little bit of contact with the lap traffic, but it is Brian's turn to try and make it around now as we see them coming up on Go Brian. So, oh, it's Brian and Go Brian. How about that? Well, let's see if the name gains him any favor, as he finds himself actually a little bit of an easier spot to go around. And you can see the grid not far behind him, so Brian does not have the breathing room that Dancy does. So he's going to be pushing, but also has to check his mirrors while he does so. That's going to be a little bit tougher to maintain that pace. And as I say that, he manages to hold it, puts up his own personal best lap of the race right there to match the pace of Dancy in front and keep things going. Speaking of keep things going, King Flash now into P11, looking at a striking opportunity for P10 on Thorn Maddox in the new Racer. So this would be big for the DLRT team. And I know they had one racer who wasn't able to join tonight, it seems. So this will be a big moment. Only a half second down, a big turn here could at least put him into drafting range, or maybe give him the spot. Oh my God. Woof.
Deep lunge there.
A very deep lunge, and we hear the little bit of engine rev in neutral, I believe. I wasn't checking the bottom left there to see, but a moment of panic. I want to say that was a full brown flag situation. We'll have to get the car cleaned after the race, but Flash will be back on the hunt. Lewis goes out wide into the grass, does not count as broadcaster's curse because we only watched it happen after it started. But that does give Sydney the position as Sydney tries to hunt down the Canadian man of Moss 72 in front. Lewis struggling a little bit to find the gear there is going to start to give Obama and the Llama a chance to catch back up. We do see Rick hanging on, only 2.7 seconds back with a lot of race left to go. So we'll see if that is something that's able to help him out. Max Yang going off the track though. Here back in towards turn 1 again. And that'll bring him closer to Thorn Maddox. A little battling between them could be exactly what Flash needs to get back into the hunt. Max Yang looking to just stay in front if you can. Thorn trying to line up that outside lane into the lazy right. Neither one's giving an inch here. I'm very curious to see who's going to come out on top. They take very similar braking points into the right hook. So Thorn will once again get a chance to latch onto that draft. Speaking of drafting opportunities, I do see Zed Wolf for the first time in a while creeping underneath that half-second marker. So might see something happening in the battle for P3 soon. We are only 12 laps in, so probably another 5 more till we see the earliest of our pit stops. I'd say somewhere between the next 5 and 8 laps will be the ideal range for these guys. Seeing Articulate Fox has spun out across the start-finish straight, as Lewis is going to be one of our earliest racers to pit. That might be the I messed up that Lewis was talking about, not setting up a pit strategy, or at least just running with the basic fuel level of the car. We'll have to see. Oh, one thing we didn't see was unfortunately Zed Wolf, it seems like, pulling a move into the final straightaway. Judging by things, I'm going to say he took that outside lane with some speed and pulls away P3 from Sam. Elvis looking to try and do the same on Big Dean Energy. Isn't going to get the chance in the final turn, but will at least be close enough to creep into drafting range. Following a strong one here. Very heavy on the brakes into turn 1. Looking to avoid Zed Wolf. Wow, that's going to be Zed Wolf there, spinning out on turn 1, giving the position back to Sam S, but also giving a few to Rev, Big Dean Energy, and Elvis. Now, directly behind them, we do have Victor Kersey. So Victor trying to unlap themselves. Not going to be someone to let up as they're trying to catch up to anyone they can and make up positions where they can get them. Oh, we do tune in right at a perfect moment. Dancy here looking to get through as Llama and Sydney find themselves the course of lap traffic in the midst of their own battle. Looks like Dancy focusing on consistency and the line, already losing a little bit at a time here, down to 7.3 seconds. I'm going to say partially because of all the lap traffic.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this lap traffic is definitely going to be difficult here. He's seen quite a bit of it as he is the fastest racer on the grid.
Now, as our leader in the endurance event there, did lap traffic come into a play with you at all? And how'd you handle it when that did?
Oh, for sure. It can definitely be frustrating at times, having to deal with slower traffic in front of you. It's a little different because we see multi-class. You know, we have different classes there. But the best way to go about it is to not worry about the time as much, but just get through it cleanly. You know, if you can't make it through clean, then you have a worse off chance than if you were to have it done nice and neat, but a little bit slower. So I definitely err on the side of caution, especially when it comes to multi-class racing. But this, like I said, isn't multi-class. So just try to be safe and get past them when you can. 3/10 isn't going to kill you over the length of a 45-minute race, but 10 seconds will if you put it into a wall.
Yeah, very, very well said. Now, I don't know if you caught that there, but Dancy did miss the pit box slightly and did end up just getting back out on the track, which seems like a short fuel stop. I'm not sure if they did a full fuel or strategically calculated down to their next stop. But that definitely is going to give Brian a little bit of a chance now. Brian back within, I want to say, an 8-second gap to Dancy. This is where things get interesting. Everything's going to start to get a little bit shaken up here. We did see Llama disconnecting from the race altogether.
Super unfortunate there. I know he's having a little bit of a tough time that last lap that we watched him. He has a little broadcaster's curse there. Hopefully it's just an internet issue and he can get back in here.
Yeah, I mean, overall, Llama was having a great race, so certainly one we want to see get back out onto the track. See if Go Brian is going to be rejoining us. Hopefully they are just in for a little bit of a pit. But we'll join now over to Zed Wolf trying to keep up with the leader. He's got Brian number 7 pretty far off behind him. Actually, I want to say that's T Sid directly behind. That is going to be so T Sid on a blue lap trying to keep up with these guys. So this is actually going to be kind of nice for them. They'll have a little bit of motivation with these faster lap drivers among them. Try and pick up their draft, pick up some tips from their line wherever they can. "26 minutes remaining." I'm kind of surprised with how early we're seeing some of these pit stops.
Yeah, I mean, it does make a little bit of sense, though. You know, we've seen 20 at the 27-minute mark. We've seen a lot of pit stops, and we need 2 of them. So it does make a little bit of sense. We'll see if these guys decide to opt for the higher fuel towards the end of the race. But yeah, like you were saying, it is a little bit odd. We were talking about the low fuel towards the end being might be the strategy, but either way, it can go both ways, and these guys have opted for the lower fuel earlier on.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see Sid sneaking past Brian here as they re-enter the track. Yeah, I mean, I will say that EU guys, we saw that typically around the 18 lap marker. So I'm curious to see how that comes into play. Over in the pro side of things, we do only have 3 racers who have pit so far in their 17th lap of the race. So it seems like the overall strategy there is going to be the later one. And we do have half the grid going for the earlier stop here. So we'll get a good sense of how the undercut strategy plays out, which is always nice to see. Good data.
For sure. 100%. And one of the other things that could be affecting these guys is the fact that they've had to kind of, I'm going to say, stomp on the throttle quite a few times because of the higher count of drivers on the grid. You know, you're trying to pass somebody, things are happening, you slow down real fast, speed up really fast. That could be one of the issues that they've been trying to handle. You know, burning more fuel faster than the rest of the guys we've seen so far.
And I think, and I'm not 100% positive, but I think we just saw Thorn Maddox off the track after spinning to avoid Zed Wolf, who had spun out into the track. Oh, actually, that might have been Max Yang now that I'm looking at it. Not 100% positive. But at least they'll be using this as an opportunity for their pit stop so they don't lose too much time all at once. So 4 racers into the pit. We'll have to see 4 racers out soon as these guys heading down the finals or the second straightaway. Neither one pulling into the pits between them. Is either one pit yet? Actually, they both have, so they're going to be out fresh for now. Now fresh with a little bit of a lead. Who do we have out here? Oh, that's going to be Go Brian, unfortunately, out on the track. Or off the track, rather. Is Thanks Obama really looking for a way through here on Ricky Richmond? Can he do something? The 87 car trying to defend against that 7, but the draft is really helping him keep a nose in. It'll all come down to the right hook. Oh, or maybe not,
Ooh.
as Ricky Richmond spins out wide and sends it into the wall. How much is that going to cost him? Tries to get a little bit momentum on before the rejoin. It's going to be a dangerous rejoin here. Oh, and nearly takes out Dance in the process. But thankfully, Dance able to keep on moving. And we see Zed Wolf able to avoid the contact as well. Further back, we see T-Sid working their way closer to Go Brian to try and get another notch on the lap post if they can. And narrowly manages to squeeze through a little bit of contact, but nothing too crazy. King Flash, I think, ends up hitting a button that they don't intend to. I'm not sure what that was. Might have been a teleport to pit button, as we see them way down at the bottom here. I don't think that's where they expect it to be at this point in the race. And speaking of this point in the race, we see Brian number 7, 13.9 seconds back, 14 now to Dance, and growing. We have a incident there? We must have, as that's actually Go Brian. There's that Sonic Racer caught up in traffic there. 4 seconds off their time.
Must have had a slight spin there in that last corner. Or maybe a little bit of a hiccup, but hopefully he can get back to where he was and keep racing.
Yeah, I mean, we say that, but Sam definitely isn't going to be looking forward to that. Oh, as a couple racers trying to avoid Go Brian there. Sam, now within drafting range, might have a chance at picking up P2 if he can just carry the pace. Go Brian getting pulled along, though, by that draft of, I want to say, Max Yang in front. Max taking it a little bit wide to allow for the 2 wide through the final turn. Those guys working together a little bit did help Brian put a little bit of a gap back between himself and Sam. But Zed, I was going to say, does not have that luxury as T. Sydney creeps closer and closer, but Zed ends up losing a little bit of control, goes into the barrier. This is going to be a tricky spot. Parks it just to try and make sure that everybody can see what's going on. Honestly, in that situation, I think that might have been the best play, especially given how far down the straight it was. A bold one, but it played off, you know?
For sure. Yeah, as long as you don't eat it, you're fine, right?
Exactly. Lap traffic definitely giving us some interesting moments here in this race. Coming down to the final 20 minutes, and everybody still is battling with someone. Whether or not it's someone directly in their race, they're still fighting. And that's kind of all that super matters there. Do you see over in the pro end of things, Articulate Fox does have an 8.5 second lead over IMJ, who's got a 2 second lead over El Garito the Great. So definitely putting in a strong opening event today. It's currently holding the fastest lap between both races with a 107.4. Over in our end of things, we do have Brian number 7 with the fastest lap of the event at a 107.8. Dancy with a 107.9, not far behind. Wait a minute there. Rev 174 actually has a 107.5 on the board. That's going to be huge. That actually would put him at P2 as far as the qualifying times go, or sorry, best lap times go for the pro race.
100%, and as of now, that also gives him the best lap time of this race so far, which gives him 1 point for this race, which is great for him when it comes to the standings.
It's actually going to be 2 because today's a double, so that'll be
That's true.
A nice boost.
Oh, for sure, definitely, especially if he is looking to be bumped up to the pro class. An extra 2 points is not going to hurt him at all.
No, I don't think it would. Now, I will say, as our current standings lie, I think the top 4 racers on our grid will probably end up getting moved, or sorry, the top 5 will probably end up getting moved, just based on their performance so far and overall. But obviously plenty of race to go. Anybody can battle their way up to that marking, as there's still a full pit strategy left in play.
100%. Definitely. There's tons of race left here, as we have now, 18 minutes remaining on the clock there.
Yeah, as Victor's going to pick up a spot here to T. Sydney, who I think struggled a little bit through the right hook. So moving into P12. Again, these positions are not necessarily their final points, as these guys are still going to have opportunities to, well, once there's classes, is what I'm trying to say, then these guys will get other chances. Our King Flash still in the pits at the moment. I think whatever the issue was with the button might have been the kiss of death on their race, but they do need to get back and moving, as finishing the race is one of the biggest factors of getting points. As it stands right now, they won't be getting any for today's event, so they do need to get back on track and keep moving. Go Brian currently will be the last racer on the grid receiving points for today's race. Do you see a little bit of contact in the pro race between Zach Dickinson and IMJ that is going to give El Garito a chance to make a move? In the bottom right of your screen, you can see those guys starting to pull up there. On our end of things, that's going to be looking like Thorn Maddox with the next chance, as he creeps closer and closer to the Canadian man in front. I gotta say, for a new racer, he's doing pretty good here, holding P9 strong, fastest lap of a 108.5, so not too far off the pace at all. Really
Most definitely. I mean, it's a great performance here. Being P10 and being above P10 in your first race is honestly super impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, they're doing a good job of holding off Dancy behind, as you can actually see. They're going to be looking for their lapped opportunity soon, but it's not coming too quickly.
Not at all. He's holding a good pace there, and he just keep moving, and Dan's trying to. Dan is lapping a little bit faster, as we can see, but he's holding himself far apart where it's not too big of an issue, and it's not holding up Dan at all, which is great.
Now we are reaching the final 15 minutes of the event here. I'd be willing to bet we won't see those pit stops for probably another 5 minutes or 10 minutes, if I had to guess. So right now it's all about actually making some progress to the guy in front. There's not going to be any big advantage opening up anytime soon unless you make one. And we see Thorn Maddox taking that to heart right up ahead here. Dancy's got a pretty comfortable lead. If I'm him, I'm going to throttle back a little bit and let this battle play out. They are 21 seconds apart. Oh, and Moss is going to take the early break to let Thorn go through. And I think he sees the blue flag, and he might have gotten a little bit confused and thought that Thorn was the blue flag car. And that might have been why he let him go through the way he did. So
definitely, and like you were saying, if I was Dancy there, I definitely would not be pushing too hard. 21 seconds. You see a huge incident there in our T1.
It's going to be Go Brian and thanks Obama with a collision through turn 1 there. Obama currently 2.4 seconds away from that battle we were watching with Thorn Maddox and Mossman. Thorn, again, still holding on to that position by a thread. I think we saw Rev 174 going into the pits. Yes, that's going to be our first of the lead cars coming in for pit stop number 2. A big one here.
So Rev will have the undercut here.
Did they hit that? Wow. Good for them. They must have practiced that at to see exactly what the wackiest angle they could hit it is. but we'll give it to him. Basically because of the race, we'll give it to him. So Rev 174 getting back on the track into a little bit of chaos here. We've got Obama, Rev, Thorn Maddox, and a disconnect from the llama. I just like saying Obama and the llama together.
It does rhyme very nicely.
It just fits. So Rev 174's got a few positions to make up here. You know, again, he did take his final pit stop, so he can take his time to get through if he wants, but this is the opportunity to make up the pace. He's really got to get through this grouping and back into the open air. With the pace Rev was on, I don't know where his fuels was at, but if he had been able to stretch it one more lap, he might have been able to actually get in front of these guys on the fuel stop. We do see one of them pulling off, so he'll at least get a slight advantage there. Oh, that's actually going to be Dancy who pulled off, the lead car, taking his final pit of the evening. As Rev moves cleanly through Obama, looking to make his way through one more car here, the number 69 car of Noob Racer. Thorn Maddox, oh, and the Noob Racer showing its livery colors. The early braking point there does get Rev 174 caught up in it, but Thorn going to be back on the hunt. Rev flashing to apologize, getting a little bit close there, just wasn't able to react in time. I think we're going to call that a incident.
I would definitely agree, a little incident there.
Just a little incident. But everybody seems to be good, seems to be back on the hunt. Does give Ricky Richmond a chance to make some action happen there. As Rev trying to leave a little bit extra space now, learning their lesson from that turn one incident.
You know, if I'm Thor Maddox here, I'm not going to be pushing too hard to hold this position here because Rev has had his final pit stop. Or sorry, I'm thinking it backwards actually. If I was Thorn Maddox, I'd be pushing super hard here. If I was Rev, I wouldn't be pushing super hard because Thorn does have his final pit stop to do still.
Yeah, I completely agree there, and we do see Ricky Richmond looking to push through if he can. He's got quite the pace, but again, he's going to be one who's got to have another pit stop, so hopefully Rev takes that same mentality, which he does seem to. Little crash there between Lewis and T-Sid, it seems. We're going to not have to jump over, as it seems to be just a little bit, and everybody is still moving forward. We do jump back just a little bit though, to get a better angle of this grouping. Thorn Maddox looking for a way back into this hunt here. The new burrito hot on the tail of run 174. He's actually going to get the draft while Rev is not. This could be big for him. I know you said he needs to be the one pushing, not Rev, and it sounds like he's taking it to heart. That's actually Brian behind these guys. So Brian might want to consider pulling into the pits before he comes up on this traffic for a lapping opportunity. As I say that, he is already directly behind, so he'll be shining the blue flags to this whole crew.
Almost definitely. We do see Brian now, who is in P1 over Dan C. Hasn't taken his final pit yet, but he's on 16 lap old tires and fuel here. We'll see when he does take that pit, but he does have a pretty good gap now, about 8.5 seconds, so he might be able to be in close contention to Dan C there towards the end of the race.
And Thorn is getting fed to the wolves a little bit as Rev is going to pull away and look for his move on Ricky Richmond. Ricky playing a little bit defensive, but pulls into the pit. So I misspoke. It's not going to be a defensive move, just covering off that outside lane so he can make it into the pits. And Rev uses the pit stop by Elvis to pick up another position. So Not the way he pictured it. Could have gotten past Moss in theory if he was able to stay out for another lap or two. But now back on the hunt. He's got 8 seconds to make up to where he could have been coming out of that pit stop before he catches up to the grid in front. But again, a lot of these guys still have pit stops to go, so no telling where they're going to come out. Thornmatic's coming out of the pits a little bit ahead, or sorry, behind Zed Wolf. Not going to have the pace to put up anything competitive with him just yet. I'll need a few laps to get back into any sort of striking range. Speaking of striking ranges, though, we'll try and jump on over. Ooh, looks like I grabbed the wrong guy here. It's going to be Lewis I'm looking at, as he's got Go Brian in front. Lewis looking for a chance to lap the number 17 car in ahead. Go Brian's been having a little bit of a difficult time, but still powering through. That resilience is key. See a few other racers starting to catch up to these guys. Lewis not interested in getting lapped by Victor. I want to say one of the cars behind. Very interesting line through the right hook by Lewis there. I want to say that's probably where he's going to be losing a good chunk of his time. As you see the rest of the grid starting to come through here, that's going to be Moss 99 looking to get back towards Obama ahead within 2 seconds, so I'd call that striking range. As we see Brian number 7 has completed their pit stop, putting them 13.8 seconds away from Dance in front, so it's going to be interesting. Moss able to get out of the way, but chose an interesting path to do so. Back on the move, though, we'll give Rev 174 the position and 6 minutes to try and close the gap to the guys ahead. By the looks of things, we still need to see a pit from Big Dean Energy and Thanks Obama. Oh! Wow, that was Lewis there who spun out in the track. We just caught the glimpse of as Rev able to avoid that. Getting back on the gas. A little scary moment, but could be worse.
Most definitely a little bit of almost a brown flag moment there.
Almost.
For Rev.
Now this is what I was interested in here. So Sam manages to get out in front of Big Dean Energy following the pit. And wow, that's actually a much quicker pit stop than I thought it was going to be. Rev not able to make up practically any time on that one. I mean, obviously some, but still has 12 seconds separating himself and P4. So he might actually need to cling on to the rear end of Obama as close as he can. This is not a long pit stop, huh?
No, not at all. It is pretty quick. Pit stop about 5 to 10 seconds, and there just depends on how much fuel you get. But the big thing is just how long that pit road is, right? The entrance is super long compared to some of the others we've seen. That's where
but I don't believe the pit entry kicks in until pretty far down that road, so it's about having the control to send it down it.
100%. I was going to say the exact same thing. If you can be as quick as possible entering that pit lane, you have the advantage there. I do not see on the pros race here. I see El Garito has overtaken IMJ there. It's now P2, just behind Articulate Fox.
Yeah, I think the standings are going to be a little bit. Oh wow, he has. Oh man,
he hasn't taken his pit stop yet.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So that is without a pit stop. So that is Fox's lead is actually about 22 seconds, which is the pit stop time. So El Garito gonna try and hang out with him as long as he can. Osh is knowing for sending the fuel stint slightly longer than everybody else expects. So if anybody was able to find a way to make a one-stop work, it's gonna be that racer. Max Yang was able to get by for a moment, but Ricky Richmond gonna look for a way through. Max tries to cover off, but has to leave a little bit of space. That's gonna give Ricky the inside lane through the first part. But the only left will be one of the deciders. Turn 1, here we go. Ricky late on the brakes, gonna force Max to go a little bit wide, but gets a deeper entry. Might be able to pull a little bit more acceleration out of it. That's gonna be Mossman. Oh. And Mossman with a late spin, costing him a few positions, dropping behind Ricky Richmond, Max Yang, and T. Sydney. So has to jump back on it. Rick Nicholson going to be looking at an opportunity to get a pass here in the final few minutes. Has to make something happen. Does make something happen. Flies through Moz 99 with conviction. Only got a few minutes to defend that lead. Can they hang on? We'll circle back just a little bit. Checking now with Victor Kersey. The two green cars battling it out as Victor creeps closer and closer. I do see Max Yang looking for a move on Ricky Richmond ahead. A little bit of bump drafting going on between them, whether intentional or not. It's interesting how much is going to come down to these final few moments here.
No, it's super, super close racing here tonight. These guys are only within about a second and a half of each other, which is awesome to see.
Ooh, speaking
Sydney in the wall.
That's certainly going to be unfortunate for T. Sid, but that's going to be huge for Rick Nicholson. Might be able to pick up another spot here in the final 2 laps of the race. Just needs to keep it clean, and that acceleration will carry them a long way. Jumping now over to Max Yang, only half a second away from Ricky Richmond in front. This is a battle that's been going on for the last 2 or 3 laps and will come down to the end. Both racers safely inside the top 10, but both want to be number 9. Who can make it happen? Max Yang thinking about the dive through turn, or the final turn, but rather lines himself up for an acceleration down the long starting straight. You can see both cars, a little bit of bruising. More on the front end of Max Yang and the rear end of Ricky Richmond, but both racers make contact, and that's going to be devastating for both as they go wide out into the wall on turn 1. Max Yang keeps moving, so does Ricky Richmond. They'll get on the pace here, but T-Sid able to catch back up a little bit. Max Yang going to slow down, actually, and let Ricky Richmond try and move forward. So that's not going to be quite the passing opportunity they were hoping for. Looks like a little bit of contact possibly between Lewis and O'Brien here towards the back half of the grid. Seems like nothing too devastating as both racers able to keep moving. Victor still within that half-second range of the other green car in front, looking for a way through wherever he can find it. Hasn't been able to open things up. Over in the pro race, they have entered their final lap as well. We're going to keep eyes on in the final few seconds here. It looks like Zed Wolf and Victor is the battle to watch as Victor finally gets his position, but has to defend as Zed Wolf now in the draft. This is going to be a difficult thing to defend into turn 1. Dancy coming across the line, the champion of your season 6 race 1. As Zed Wolf manages to pull through and get in front. Of Victor Kersey. No. And Victor's out of fuel. Oh. And that's what it came down to there. Victor out of fuel. We see a big pile up here, it seems. Thanks, Obama. T. Sydney, Ricky Richmond. That's going to be Max Yang caught up in that one as well. Zed Wolf trying to just piece his way through. Rev 174 trying to make his way through this chaos as well. That is a lot of racers that just got caught up in some type of big collision here in the final turn. Not sure what exactly set it off, but it certainly changes the finishing order as Moss 99, T Sid, Zed Wolf, Ricky Richmond, Max Yang, and the rest come across the grid. Well, that was certainly something.
It definitely was a super, super awesome race to watch.
Yeah, we do see a lot of these guys making their way around the track on victory laps and your generic chaos spins, but some good solid racing all around. A couple of dicey moments, but nothing we haven't seen before. Next week, I think we're heading to Brand. Well, not next week. Next week's going to be an open race, and then when we come back for the season after that, it will be at Brands Hatch for another short one. We're going to go get these rankings sorted now and see you guys